Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Harrison Talks Pod, episode 62. We had two exciting games last night. Well, I don't know if they were exciting. I'm messing up my own intro now, but we had two games last night. So this episode wrote itself. We're going to get right into it. Check out Side Panel Network below. We'll have Nintendo Therapy coming out a day after this episode comes out. And join me over on YouTube because I do put weekly episodes out over there in the middle of the week just for some extra basketball talk. Try to get some more followers over there. So, hope you guys are doing well. Let's talk about then the first game tonight. We had the Pistons and Cavaliers Game 6, and for the second time in a row, the Pistons have forced a Game 7. So, very interesting series. A lot of positives for both teams, but I think both teams are showing what they are, pretty much. They're showing what flaws they might have in postseason basketball. So, whoever wins Game 7, it's going to be a very memorable road to the conference finals for them. Detroit Pistons are a very memorable one seed for good reasons, like they are so young. They had the historic win streak the season before. They had an historic losing streak 2 seasons ago, and now they're the one seed in the Eastern Conference. But they certainly don't feel like a one seed on some nights. But we had a great example of Detroit Pistons basketball tonight. So, Detroit is usually better in the full court, usually better when they can force the turnovers and just control offensive boards overall. So for Detroit, they shot okay, but they shot very well from three, 44% from three, 48 points off the bench. And speaking of turnovers, 28 points off turnovers tonight. And for Cleveland, did not shoot well at all, only 39%. And that started at the very, very top for them. Had 20 turnovers overall compared to only 15 assists. So I talked in my last video about how Detroit clearly relies on Cade Cunningham too much. I did not put. Oh, I did. No, I didn't for tonight. I don't know what his usage is for this game 6, but for the series up to game 6, it was right around 32%. So, very high usage, not shooting the ball that well. Overall, in the series, only 41%. But for the role that he's playing on this offense, I think that it is expected. He is still a young superstar in this league, and there's often times where Detroit just isn't shooting well as a team. So that's expected. Sometimes is not controlling the ball as well as you'd hope to, but again, is just a very high usage player and is just expected to do everything for this team on many different nights. So he definitely stabilized the pace late. He helped do that. And he started out very cold, though. But overall, hit 5 threes, finished with 8 assists. And for the series, is averaging 25.7 points per game, 8.3 assists, and right around 42 minutes per game. So just doing a lot or doing everything on both ends. Getting into the other players and the role players because, well, let's talk to Jalen Duren first. I think this is the best Jalen Duren game we've got overall in this postseason. Unfortunately, it's not saying very much, but we don't have to keep rehashing what's going to happen in this offseason. Who knows? But had 15 points overall, had 9 or 10 in the first half. I think 9 points. 11 rebounds, 3 blocks, shot 70% overall, and had some big offensive boards. Flexed, I don't know, stuck his tongue out. I forget what he did overall, but definitely seemed to have just more swag, I guess I'll say, out there. Speaking of swag, our star Thompson, some big defensive plays and some big transition points for him as well. 4 steals overall, and had just a really crazy block. It's so impressive when players can block going up with both hands just in case, like last second, they were to change their shot, but had a really just memorable block tonight as well. He ends with 10, 9, and 4. Paul Reed, and getting into what Bickerstaff does with his front court rotations, it's been very interesting for this series. But Paul Reed had 17 points, 6 rebounds, 78% from the field, and just seems kind of ready to go, especially down the stretch. So much so that when you think about how you give Jalen Duren minutes, and I don't know if I agree not playing Jalen Duren in the fourth quarter of Game 5, especially when he's someone you're going to rely on. It's interesting how the minutes get taken away from Isaiah Stewart, who is only 0 for 1 tonight, only played a few minutes. But yeah, Paul Reed, another great game from him, averaging 13.3 points per game. And I mean, 78% tonight, but 76% overall in these 6 games. So that is crazy. And Detroit's finding it other ways as well. Sasser only had 9 points, but was a plus 27 off the bench. So, I mean, that's huge. Dennis Jenkins had a better night tonight, 15 points, including 3 threes and no turnovers. Duncan Robinson had a better night tonight, 14 points, including 4 threes, and helped a lot of the spacing. So there's certainly help that Cade Cunningham is getting. It's just iffy sometimes because there's just sometimes where they're not controlling the ball in their half court as well as they should. They're relying too much on transition points. They're relying too much on their defense, and sometimes their shooting is just flat. But I'll end this section, though, talking about Tobias Harris, who did not have as big or as impactful as a game, but is oftentimes that second or third option next to Cade Cunningham, and he's been very efficient this series, averaging 16.2 points per game. So a lot of problems for Cleveland. Now, Cleveland, we mentioned in my last video that the talent level is crazy at its peak, right? At its peak, you could have 4 All-Stars in your starting lineup. One of the most legendary scorers of modern basketball. Former DPOY, multiple time All-Star in Donovan Mitchell, All NBA. But if James Harden is your first option, and it's not to say that's what happened tonight, because they both shot the ball very badly tonight. I mean, it was just top to bottom not so good. But Donovan Mitchell has to be the first option for this lineup to work, and maybe that just means it doesn't work. Conference finals, though, who knows? I don't know. But a lot of questions about whether a backcourt of an older James Harden and a Donovan Mitchell, who is much more on the offensive end as far as, what you get, does that make a successful team? Now, I think we can give a lot of credit to their game planning, to putting pressure on Detroit's front court between Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. But man, like, it's obvious that they can play better half court basketball. I mean, you have one of the best half court basketball players in modern basketball history on your team, but it's really rough. I mean, Donovan Mitchell had 18 points tonight, but was 6 of 20, minus 25. Is averaging 28.5 for the series, but only 28% from three. James Harden had 23 points tonight, but had 8 turnovers. And we know the turnover woes for James Harden. Let's just move ahead. Evan Mobley, Jared Allen. Evan Mobley tonight. I didn't put tonight. Well, for the series, let's say that. For the series, is averaging 15, 7, and 5, 2.8 blocks. And I think he had a better offensive night tonight. And Jared Allen, very efficient at 13.3 points per game. Certainly has had the front court advantage, but have not been able to take advantage, especially in this game 6. I just don't know. Because Cleveland can win game 7, of course. But if it turns into a jump shooting contest, I don't know who wins. I just don't. Because I don't trust either. I don't trust Detroit in their half court. I don't trust Cleveland's shooting. But one of these teams has to win. So I just keep going back and forth to it. And I guess we'll end talking about the bigger picture, of course. The Knicks also get a very nice break. They've won 7 in a row, and they're playing some of the best basketball in this postseason. Plus 19.4 point differential between the two series. Only lost 2 games, right? Yes. 124.8 offensive rating. Just looked very, very organized. And as far as matchups go, I think it's the clear advantage for the Knicks as far as their front court goes, as far as their half court offense goes. You can give the advantage to Detroit's defense. But 124 offensive rating, I don't know. I think it's going to be rough. And same thing for Cleveland, too. I don't mean to, count them out, but I think the issue is the same for either matchups. So let's end with some positives. Cade Cunningham, emerging superstar, certainly looks like a engine in the playoffs, and it's just being asked to do a lot. So the numbers aren't going to say everything. Cleveland has a lot of positives in their front courts. Still very dangerous there. Mobley is continuing to evolve, and I think just needs to take that next step offensively. But I think there's less concerns from me. I think so. No concerns for defense, of course. So you can let me know. What do you think? Who wins Game 7? This will be out before Game 7. So do they win by talent or identity? Does it come down to gritty defense? Does it come down to jump shooting? That's all I want to say. Let's move on to the next game because the Spurs blew out the Timberwolves and are moving on. So the Spurs won this one 139-109. About 7 minutes or so left. Anthony Edwards walked over and gave high fives to the whole staff and team of the Spurs before getting taken out. That's kind of strange. I don't know. I mean, sportsmanship I'm a big fan of. But at the end of the game, like, do you have to rush out of there? I just don't know. But I think I will remember this series as I'm surprised that it was a 6-game series based on the games the Spurs won. I mean, including this game last night where they pulled ahead pretty early. The Spurs could have won game 1. They had a chance at the very end. It could have flipped and been very different after that. But overall, I'm just surprised based on just like what I saw tonight that this series actually went 6 games. Minnesota, we'll talk about them, I think, a lot in this offseason. But there's a lot of positives there. Julius Randle had a horrible night tonight. But I really like the role that he plays on this team. But I don't think you can have the same combination of players. There's a lot of grit on this team. There's so many players that I'm impressed with and kind of had some breakout moments in this postseason. Rudy Gobert had one of his best seasons of his career, Anthony Edwards, what can you say? Could be top 5, could be top 3 on some nights. But the Western Conference is just different right now. It's so deep, and the top teams are just so deep into their rosters that I don't think you can run back the same team next year. Let's table it because we got too many other things to talk about. And for the Spurs in Game 6, they had 34 assists, 18 made threes, 66% effective field goal percentage, including 58 points in the paint. And I want to give credit for Minnesota's game planning overall. They did win 2 games. There is a lot of talent, but I think when it comes to the Spurs, especially on their defense, because especially if you look at their defensive rating on games where the Spurs are winning, it's really bad for Minnesota. So I think Minnesota clearly needs to get better on their offensive end, but there might just not be an answer for the Spurs on that end right now. I mean, in game 1, they did their best kind of trying to pull Wemby out of the paint as much as they could, but right, we'll talk about the preview of the next series at the end. Let's keep going though. So Spurs average 120.7 points per game in this series. 57.7 points were in the paint, and 20.3 were in fast break points. Meanwhile, the Wolves shot under 41% and were just very stagnant a lot of times in their half-court offense. I give Minnesota credit in their game planning, and there were some positives that we saw. It's very hard to try and control San Antonio's front court, of course, but Rudy Gobert, horrible night tonight, but we know what he is on defense. And then you have to decide what you do between Julius Randle, who had another difficult night, Jaden McDaniels, and then Naz Reid, who had 18 points tonight. And then you have to think about how it fits in with your backcourt rotations. And I was very impressed with Terrence Shannon throughout these 2 series. He had 21 points tonight, 8 of 15 from the field. And I wasn't sure how he was going to fit in with the rotations that you might need to try and control San Antonio's front court. I guess the answer was it wasn't controlled, but he still had a good performance, Terrence Shannon. So good job by him, and I'm happy that more eyeballs got on him this postseason. De'Aaron Fox had 21 points tonight, and I think he needs to be the X factor against the Thunder in this next series. So this is a great example. 8 of 10 from the field, 9 assists, 3 of 3 from 3, only 1 turnover. So helped control the pace a lot in that half court. Victor Wembanyama, 19 points, 3 blocks, 19 contested shots tonight. I don't know what the average is for him, but it sounds like a lot. And actually, it's pretty close to his series average for points, 19.8 points per game in this series. Average 4.2 blocks. I guess that includes having with 12 in game one. A lot in game one, whatever it was. And led in net rating at plus 23, plus 3. What else can we say about it? Dylan Harper, great series by him. Had how many points tonight? Had 15 points tonight, right at his average, 6 of 8 from the field, averaging 14.7 for the series. Champagnie had 18 points tonight, hit 4 threes, and was a plus 35. And Minnesota, a lot of issues. Mentioned the scoring. Anthony Edwards averaged 23.7 points per game tonight. Certainly looked like he was trying to shoot his team out of it, or he was just trying to shoot that basketball. I think he might have shot 20 shots in the first half. He attempted 26 for the game, but I'm surprised it's not over 30. He was 9 of 26 tonight with 24 points, pretty close to his average. The aggression wasn't the issue. Julius Randle, 1 of 8 from the field, 3 points, and then when you combine that with Rudy Gobert, 22 minutes, 0 points, 0 of 4 from the field, just not a good performance from them. Don't know what they're going to do. Naz Reid, 14.3 points per game, 45% from 3 in this series, and had 18 points tonight. So, hey, off their bench, there are some great positives. If they were in the Eastern Conference, I don't know. It's a comparison. It's like they're super talented. They could be a top 4 team in the West. They've had a lot of success in the playoffs. They might have had their biggest series win in their franchise history, but in this year. But I just don't know what they do from here, because compared to these top teams, and clearly Spurs and Thunder are the 2 best teams in the West, I think. And a lot of people think the 2 best teams in the league. Thunder, just a young team, a lot of rest. I heard, was it Lou Dort? Yeah, I think it was Lou Dort that said, or no, maybe it was Chet Holmgren, that said they have 18 players on the rotation. And I thought about that. I was like, is that true? I guess it's true, because there's players like Aaron Wiggins that we haven't seen as much, but then there's other breakout players like AJ Mitchell now that are killing teams on some nights. So Thunder, undefeated, well-rested, young, plus 17 in their net rating, 126.3 in their offensive rating. So I guess that's actually higher than the Knicks overall. Wow. Okay, well, they haven't lost any games either, so I guess that does make sense. And 10.3 steals per game, which is huge. 22.9 points off turnovers, which I'm pretty sure leads the entire postseason. And I think SGA is going to provide the safest half court in all of basketball. And I know I keep saying half court this episode, but it's the postseason. Jed Holmgren has had a great postseason, 18.6 per game. So we know that Wemby is DPOY. We know there's kind of a rivalry between these two players, but Chet Holmgren is still an all defensive player. And we don't always see them match up in the rotations. So it's something to kind of keep an eye on when you're watching these two teams. Speaking of which, both these teams can switch, can protect the rim, and they will be switching a lot this series. Can Castle and Dylan Harper get downhill consistently? I think that will be a big key in this series. So overall, everyone should be excited about this. The top two teams are facing off once again, and I hope we get 6 games. I hope we get 7 games. I would feel much different than this upcoming Game 7 we have. So I'll kind of leave it there, and I won't give my predictions. You can give your predictions, though, in the comments, and I hope you have a great week, a great basketball week. Thank you for your time today. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.